Hello there. Happy Tuesday. I wanted to pop in today and talk a little bit about fear. And I kind of thought it was appropriate to come live from if you watch my stories, you've probably seen me talk about like my murder basement before. So I live in a big old loft building. It used to be a storage facility for medical records. It's a really, really old facility. I don't know what it was before that, but we have like this storage space in the basement. And here's our unit. But right outside of our unit, you guys, and I know it's just paint. There's paint like on the floor. And then I always say it looks like they drug a dead body there, but I call it my murder basement. I'm totally just joking. It's just like a little joke, but fear is real, y'all. And first of all, I want to let people know that like whatever fears that you have, some people may think or tell you that they're irrational, but we usually have these fears for a reason, right? Something that has happened to us in the past, something that we have read or seen on TV, and it just gets in your brain, and our minds are so powerful. So powerful, the things that they tell us and the things that we see. It's all about perception too, right? But I always tell my boot campers, I always tell my team that everything from your neck up controls everything from your neck down. And that goes right along with fear and what lives in our minds. And like my neighbor was down here the other day and she was getting something out of her storage space and we were getting our bikes out, and she was telling me how she like does not like basements. So coming down here is really hard for her. And I grew up in the Midwest. I'm back in the Midwest now, and almost all the homes, have basements because of tornadoes. So I have lived in some places with creepy basements. The house that I grew up in, that I lived in for several years, I loved the basement. A lot of people would probably think it was really creepy because it was dark and dingy, but we had so much fun down there as a family. My sister and I would go down there and play. My dad had his workshop down there. I just liked our basement. I loved our basement down there. And then let's see, our house actually burned down when I was 9 years old, and then we rebuilt, and I loved our basement because my dad built like a classroom for me down there, and my sister and I would roller skate and rollerblade in our basement. But my husband and I, the first house that we lived together was in Hayworth, Illinois, just a little tiny town, and our basement was terrifying. I don't know if you guys have like heard of spider crickets, or honestly if they're even really a thing, but our washer and dryer was at the bottom of our basement stairs, and it was so dark and damp and dingy. And every time I would go down to do laundry, I would put on boots, I would grab the laundry basket and take a broom. And when I was walking down the stairs, the spider crickets would be on the wall and they'd like jump out at me. So I'd try to knock them off the wall with the broom as I was going down the stairs. But my husband would not come down with me. He would just sit and laugh at me screaming. And also something that I thought was really creepy was in the back of this basement, there was a room that was decorated for like a child. It was painted bright blue, and there was planets and all kinds of things. And there was a ceiling fan that was like primary colors. Like a kid lived down there at some point. And I'm like, who puts their kid down here? But that house creeped me out. I'm convinced it was haunted. Oh, and all the rooms upstairs, they had locks on the outside of the doors and up top, like the hook locks. And I was like, something weird went on here. But we just lived there. I think we only lived there for about 6 months. And then that's when my husband took a job in Oregon and we moved from Illinois to Oregon. But okay, that's a whole lot of backstory, whole lot of rambling to just talk about fear. But I was just on a call last night, and I was talking to some people, and what I have learned over the years is that we all have fears, right? Whether they make sense, whether they don't make sense, it doesn't matter. We have them. It exists, and I don't think fear is a bad thing. It's what you do with that fear that matters. So you can either let the fear freeze you and take no action and do nothing, or you can let it fuel you. And you can take that fear and you can turn it into something beautiful and turn it into something good. And in 2018, that's the first year, instead of making New Year's resolutions, I started picking a word of the year. And my word that year was fearless. And a lot of big things happened to me in 2018. And the word fearless will always have a very special place in my heart. But I don't think, I heard somebody say, I think it's Judy Holler. She has a book called Fear is My Homeboy. It's so good. She said, we shouldn't be fearless, like without fear, but we should learn how to fear less. And I loved that, looking at it that way, because fear isn't always a bad thing. And there's usually logical reasons behind whatever fears that we do have. a fear that I have this is really silly, and I don't think there is a logical thing behind it, but I'm terrified of yellow cheese. I know, that's so ridiculous. It's so stupid. All of my friends know that. My family knows that. I've always gotten made fun of for that. And actually, last year I was on a cruise with a ton of my coaching team, and we were in Labadee, Haiti, and we were having a huge cookout. And I was taking pictures with my friend Courtney down by the ocean, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I see my friend Candace and Elizabeth were like running towards me at full speed, and I thought they were just like running to get in the picture or something. They had gotten all these cheese slices from the cookout and were putting them all over like my chest and my face and everything, and I was screaming because they just think it's hysterical that I'm terrified of yellow cheese. And I don't understand it. I don't know. I know it's weird. I probably need to see a psychiatrist or something for it. I don't get it. But I want to talk about a fear that I have that I am really working on overcoming day after day. And I feel like I'm doing a really, really good job about it. And my husband still jokes around with me for it. And we kind of got in a little like tiff about it the other day because I told him it's not his job to judge me or even understand it, but just support me. So bicycles. I'm terrified of riding bikes. I did all the time growing up. Didn't bother me at all. I taught myself how to ride a bike without training wheels. Like I think I was really young, like just on my own one afternoon on our farm. I told my mom I was going to, and I did it. I loved riding bikes. When I was in second grade, I won a 10-speed bike at the Illinois State Fair. I was like so excited. I rode that thing everywhere. I was so proud of it. I always liked bikes. But like I said, a lot of times fear comes into your life because of an event that like is happening to you or something that's happening to you. And I absolutely know the event that caused me to be fearful of riding bikes. And gosh, it was 2004. It was either 2004 or 2005. My mom is a big cyclist. She has been her whole life. Iowa has this ride called RAGBRAI where they ride all the way across. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, Mel. That's so weird. So my mom's a cyclist. She did this ride across Iowa so many times. She did it, I think, on her 60th birthday, her 65th birthday. She did it like 7 or 8 times in her 20s, but she's just a cyclist. She loves it so much. She has her whole group of cycling friends. I always tell, when I tell people about my mom, like the people that don't really know her, and I'm like, oh yeah, her like bike club and all this stuff, and they're like Harley? And I'm like, no, if you knew my mom, you knew it was not Harley. It's definitely cycling. But I love it. I love what it's done for my mom's life. It's kept her fit, it's kept her healthy, it's kept her active, it keeps her social, maybe not in quarantine time, but well, it actually does. That's like the one time my mom gets out now is when it's nice out and she can get out and ride. Okay, but long story, sorry, I ramble if you know me, but okay, so I think it was Memorial Day 2004 or 2005, and I woke up and I was in college. I lived in a rural crappy college apartment, and I was serving in bartending at the time, and I had a closed bar I think the night before, so I was sleeping in, and I think it was like 7 or 8 by the time I woke up. Yeah, that's sleeping in for me. And I had all these missed calls from a number I didn't know. But then I had a text from my sister, and she said, Mom's been in an accident, call me right away. And I called my sister, and my dad had picked up my sister, and they were on their way into where I lived, where our college was, to pick me up. And my parents had been divorced. They didn't get along the best, but the fact that my dad was picking my sister up and then coming to take me to the hospital in Peoria, it's a town like 45 minutes away from where we're from, it terrified me, because I'm like, how is something so bad that like, they're like, we're getting you, get in the car, we gotta go. So what had happened was my mom was on a bike ride, and she was with a big group of people. They were going really, really fast, and a semi was coming by. They were on like a country road, and it didn't slow down at all. And like the wind force or the wind tunnel from the semi sucked my mom off her bike. And gosh, I don't know how fast people ride on bikes. I want to say my mom was going like 28 miles an hour. I don't know if that's possible or if that's stupid, but it sucked my mom off her bike, and she crashed, and it was so bad, you guys. My mom was unconscious off and on for a couple of days, and they had to airlift her to this like trauma center. They had no idea like what was going on. She had a broken collarbone or like a broken hand. They didn't know how severe her head injuries were. But the very first time I saw my mom, when my dad picked us up, he drove us 45 minutes. He probably made it in like 25 minutes. And the first time we saw her, we were in the ER, and the door swung open, and my mom's laying on this table covered in blood. And y'all, my mom's like my best friend, and I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know if my mom was gonna live. I stayed in the hospital with her for a couple days. I put 2 chairs together and slept, and she finally, woke up, and they realized she had nothing like severe trauma with her head. It was just like the broken bones and everything, but I have been terrified about bikes since then. Now my mom healed and got right back on a bike, because my mom's a badass like that, if you know her, but I just had this horrible fear of bikes. And I also had another incident. Oh my God, I did not mean to talk this long. Like, side note though, I had this incident where I did agree to get on a bike when my husband and I first moved to Oregon. And we were riding. I'm like, I don't want to go very far. I don't want to go very fast. And he's like, no, that's totally fine. I get it. And I was about 85 pounds heavier than I was now. And there was this like hill that I was trying to get up and I couldn't. And I was struggling so hard. And this car drove by and a guy yelled out the window something about like, if you weren't so fat, you'd be able to get up the hill. Because that's called for, right? Humans can be so ugly and so mean. Somebody I didn't even know told me that. And I got off the bike and we were probably a mile from home. I walked it back home. I was like, I'm not getting on a bike again. And I didn't until this past year when we lived in Sacramento. They had like the bikes that you can rent and go around, the jump bikes or whatever. And I finally decided to get back on a bike, and I started to kind of like it. I don't like going very fast, and I definitely don't like the kind that your like feet clip into. I just like the bigger tires with a basket and all that stuff on it. But I totally just had this horrible fear of bikes. But if you watch my stories, you know that just last week I had agreed that I would get a bike if my husband could find one that I wanted. I'm not gonna open the cage, but I got a purple bike with a basket. I named her Penelope. My husband ordered me a Belle that's gonna be here tomorrow. We've gone on a couple bike rides so far. I'm not that fast. It's only 1 speed, and it has like the brakes where you have to pedal backwards to stop, but it's perfect. That's all I need. And when we were riding last weekend, Brian was laughing at me so hard because I ran into a curb because I saw a car and they had a red light, but it just panicked me. Like, and this fear just started bubbling up inside of me again, and I didn't know what to do, and I panicked and I like ran the bike into the curb. And then he was like laughing at me. And Brian and I write in gratitude journals every morning, and I was writing how I'm overcoming my fear of bikes. And then he brought up me running my bike into the curb. And that's when I was like, you know what, buddy? I know you don't understand this fear that I have. I know you think it's irrational, and I know you think it's crazy, but it's something that I have. And I do feel like it's for a valid reason. I thought I was gonna lose my mom because of bikes, even though it had nothing to do with her bike riding. It was that semi that was going too fast. But man, I've never really toured my basement before, but I'm working on it every single day. And it's supposed to rain most of this week, but I'm hoping this weekend we can get out for another ride. But you guys, all this to say, if you have fears in your life, it is okay. If other people don't understand them, that's okay. It's not for them to understand. It's your life. It's your like battle that you have within yourself. So much of it is mindset. And I do believe that we can absolutely overcome our fears, except my fear of cheese. I don't think that'll ever happen, but you can work on it every single day, and you get to decide if you let fear freeze you or if you let it fuel you. And I am finally deciding at 36 years old that I'm going to get over my fear of bikes and that I'm going to become somewhat of a biker, like the kind that takes you to the breweries and stuff. But you are valid with whatever you feel, and do not let anybody ever make you feel less because of feelings that you have, okay? But you can decide to change it. You can decide to work on it. So, y'all, I hope you have a beautiful day. And remember, it's not about losing fear completely. It's just about fearing less and turning that fear into a fuel and making something beautiful about it or with it. So, all right, y'all, have a beautiful day.